The purpose of this video is not to say one hand good, two hand bad. I don't think like this. There is a situation, a time and a place, and a use case for every steering wheel grip, including one-handed. And the point of this video is not to berate one-handed users, two-handed users, or anything like that. The point of this video is to say you should be more conscious of which grip you're using, and you should be open to driving one-handed. Because in some situations, it's genuinely better. I often drive one-handed with the other arm gesticulating while I make YouTube videos. So I'm going to give you a few demonstrations today of why you don't need two hands on the wheel at all times, like some people will tell you. We're going to go for a spirited drive, we're going to go for a more normal drive through a little town, and we're going to talk about all the things to think about when deciding whether you should use one or two hands. It is a lovely day out here in Shropshire. I'm in a G87 M2. What could be better? Now I have to be very clear on the legalities here. If you only have one arm, you're allowed to drive a car. You're allowed to drive a car while smoking. You're allowed to drive a car while eating a banana. The law says you're allowed to do all these things as long as they don't impact your normal operation of the car, or something to that effect. A lot of the fear-mongering around driving one-handed comes from old school instructors that have experience with no power steering. A car without power steering had a tendency to rip the steering wheel out of your hands on bumps and undulations in the road. It could be very, very, very dangerous. We're all driving modern cars now. How many of us have got manual steering racks? If you're a proper petrol head and you've got a classic car that you take out once every 2 weeks on a glorious day like today, maybe you do have a manual steering rack. I'd venture to say very, very few people are daily driving cars with manual steering racks though. One-handed is absolutely fine. Nothing's gonna rip the wheel out of my hand. This car has an amazingly quick steering rack. I don't need a lot of steering input to go around corners. This is a very tight corner. I don't need much steering input. Absolutely fine. You might see me drop down to two hands here. This is just because I'm going a little bit harder now and I want a little more control. And we'll get onto this, but there are definitely reasons and situations where you should use two hands on the wheel. This is the advanced school of motoring. What am I trying to achieve by going down this town in this little rural village with two hands on the wheel? What do I gain? I don't gain anything. In fact, I actually restrict my movement on the wheel. I've got really good control to do this, but I don't have the control to go around really sharp corners, as I'll show you in a minute. One hand is the appropriate number of hands for making large, sweeping motions to get around things like roundabouts. Having only one hand on the wheel actually gives you a bit more freedom of movement. When you've got both, you're limited. And for just bimbling along, as I'm doing now, you don't need any more. The worst possible thing that can happen is that a situation develops and I need to take evasive action. A person runs out or a cyclist shoots out or something like that. Do you know the best thing I can do in that situation? I just slam on the brakes. And because I have electric steering, the car's not gonna try and jump into a gully or follow the camber of the road massively. It's just gonna track straight. And if there is a little bit of input needed, you can do it with one hand. There is some room here for talk about modern cars and their steering racks. Steering racks are getting faster and faster. I mean, You guys probably didn't feel that because there's stabilization on the camera, but this car does not need a lot of input to go a long way. Look at, like, that's just stupid. And these steering racks are generally the same, even across the base models of cars. So don't think this is just because Mick's driving around in an M2, he's got a really quick steering rack. You drive the base model like 220i or whatever it is, it's going to be the same, because I'm pretty sure the steering rack's the same. Unless the steering rack's from the M4, but then it's the same for like the 420i and the 430i and the base models there too. A long time ago, cars had really slow steering racks. Like this car is 2 turns lock to lock. Back in the days, they used to be 2.5 turns, 3 turns lock to lock, and you felt like you were driving a bus. You just had to keep spinning the wheel for the wheels to lock. And those old cars with their long steering racks did not feel very good to drive one-handed, because you just needed a lot of input to get the wheels to turn. But in a relatively modern car, I mean, I used to own a 2013 Mini Cooper, and that had an incredibly quick steering rack, similar in fact to this car. It's such a nice day. Should we have a second gear pull? God, this car's stupid. That was like half throttle. Oh, I love this thing. I instinctively put 2 hands on the wheel for this corner. It's just the right grip to use. Now let me give you an example of a situation where you want 2 hands on the wheel. I'm going to stick the car in M1 mode. We're going to have a little fun. We're not going to go crazy. We're not going to break any laws. But if we're driving a little bit more spiritedly, we may want a little more control on the wheel. On these country lanes, when we're trying to have a bit more fun, it's not appropriate to be doing it one-handed. You need the control. You need to place the car where you want it. You need to have granularity if you're going to be driving a little bit more quickly. See, when going a little bit quickly, I do like having that second hand. It is appropriate. I would go as far as to say you need it. You wouldn't want to be driving this pace with only one hand on the wheel. It wouldn't feel safe. It wouldn't feel right. But as soon as the risk goes down, there's just no need. So in conclusion, 1 hand, not bad. 2 hands, not bad. Use the right grip in the right scenario. That's the way you're going to be the best driver you possibly can be. And ignore all their advanced driving certifications that tell you this is not okay. My name's Mick. I drive cars. Bye.